So Kamala Harris is very evasive. Everybody knows that. I'm sure she knows it. It's by design. I don't think it's a good strategy, but she's neck and neck with Donald Trump in a poll. So the evasiveness does not seem to be devastating her. But if she continues that on Fox News this evening, Bear's got to come down hard. He has to. Can't be disrespectful. Now, I talked about this in minute detail with Sean Hannity on his radio program today. That's on BillO'Reilly.com if you want to listen to it. Now, while watching the interview, I'm going to give you 5 essential questions, 5 that I would ask right off the top, but they have to be phrased in a very short way, short, punchy, pithy questions. Can't go on. And you have to be fact-based. You have to have the facts, at least one, in every question. So she can't go, that's not true, that's not this, right? You have to basically get her in under 10 seconds to hear your question. Therefore, if she evades the question or goes to middle-class upbringing or whatever she does, you can stop her immediately or try to and say, that's not what I asked, Madam Vice President. Okay? Can we stay on this topic? I don't know whether Bear can do that or not. He's not a confrontational guy. I've known him for decades. He's a news guy. All right? Very few people are obnoxious as I am. So I'll jump right in, as you saw last night when I ran you a clip of the Barack Obama, Bill O'Reilly interview, which is exactly the same thing, all right, that happened in 2008 that's happening now. Identical. Now, I hope you saw that clip. If you're a premium or concierge member, you can access it anytime. All right, question number 1 for Vice President Harris, and this is what I suggest Bear ask. Why did the Biden-Harris administration stand down on the border? On February 2nd, 2001, President Biden signed an executive order knocking out the Remain in Mexico policy. That led to 10 to 15 million foreign nationals entering the USA. Why did that happen? Why? Okay? Now, what is the Vice President going to answer? I don't know. She can't blame Trump because the Remain in Mexico policy, as Bear could point out in a follow-up, I wouldn't do that in the original, okay, was down to about 700,000. Then it quadruples when they take that policy off. Why'd you take it off? It's not a complicated question for Kamala Harris to be able to answer. And it is vital. You got to start there because that is where the emotion is. Second question. When President Trump left office, inflation was 1.4%. After 1 year of Biden-Harris, it had risen to 8%. Why did that happen? Why? The why is the key. And here's why. Because it then illuminates whether she understands what happened. So why did inflation jump more than 6 points in a year? Do you know why? And then you can get around to in follow-ups, well, how are you going to bring it down? Because she's going to say it's coming down now. Why is it coming down? Do you understand why it's coming down? All right. And it's coming down because the government's not printing as much money as it did under the Inflation Reduction Act, which was totally ridiculous. But you can't get into that. That's way too complicated in the weeds. Bear only has 30 minutes. She's going to eat up 20 of those minutes, at least, with her, or they call it cliche word salad. I don't call it that. I call it evasion. Every time she starts to evade, Bear has politely got to stop her. He has to. Okay. Third question. On The View, you said you couldn't think of anything you would change about the Biden administration. Does that include the chaotic evacuation of Afghanistan that led to 13 American military people getting killed? Now, how can you justify that screw up? How, on God's earth, could Vice President Harris justify it? Now, she'll try to go back into the history of it. I understand that, but that's why you have to pin her in. You wouldn't have done anything differently? I don't want to know the history of the Taliban Afghanistan. I don't want to know that. That's not what I'm asking. You think that was the way to do it? Yes or no? Then you can explain. Now that bordering on rude, but as you saw last night with me and Barack Obama, we're talking about Iran nukes. I cut him off when he started to wander. Again, I don't know if Bear will do it. Fourth question. There are only 3 non-communist countries in the world that allow abortions with no limits. Why do you think that is? Why are there only 3 countries that allow abortion with no restrictions? Why? Not reproductive rights, not women's bodies, none of that. Okay, it's not what we're asking. 3 non-communist countries on the planet. And you ask that question to show how radical she is in the abortion arena. Can she justify that radicalism? See, all of this is vitally important to define exactly who Vice President Harris is, because we don't know who she is. I know, but the voters don't know. And I can tell you she's a radical leftist. That's who she is. Far more left than Biden. Biden doesn't have any belief system, and we've gone over that a million times. He don't believe in anything other than personal power. Final question. And this requires some video, which Fox News should be able to set up. Okay? So in 2019, Madam Vice President, always respectful, you said this about American oil companies. Go.
Will you order your Justice Department and your Attorney General to investigate Chevron and Shell companies for their part in their damage to our planet in this climate crisis?
And I'm saying about these big oil companies and these fossil fuel companies, look, you should be really prepared to look at a serious fine or be charged with a crime. And they need to pay the price. So yes is the answer.
Charged with a crime. But September 10th, she said something quite different. Go.
We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil.
So now she's proud that the oil companies are producing so much, when 5 years ago she wanted to charge them with crimes. So the question is phrased, can you explain that apparent contradiction? Those are the 5 questions. Those are the first 5. Remember, he's only got 30 minutes. Okay? All right. What happens if Bear lets her wander? Damage to him. No doubt. Because when I was on the O'Reilly Factor on the Fox News channel, 60% of my audience were conservative, Republican, mostly Republican, some independents. The other 40 were either liberal or independent or, nomads, whoever. They were tuning in because we had a very exciting program. Now, 95% of the Fox News channel audience is conservative Republican. And they're looking for blood. When I did the interview with Barack Obama, I did 3 of them. I got mail on all 3. You weren't tough enough on Obama. You didn't demean him. You didn't go in and call him out or whatever the letter was. Those were for very, very right-wing people who wanted me to hurt him. Now, I don't want Bret Baier to hurt Kamala Harris. I'm not rooting for that, and it's not going to happen. But I want an exposure on some kind of belief system that this woman holds. That's what I want as an American. So I wrote Confronting the Presidents, and every president, I tell you what his belief system was. Some of them, like Warren Harding, didn't have any belief system. Some of them, like Franklin Pierce, believed in getting drunk every night. But I told you. And I told you about Biden. Now I want to have Kamala Harris tell us Okay, now those 5 questions, very precise, all under 10 seconds, except the last one when you're using a tape. And I'm using a tape so she can't contradict. She's going to charge the oil companies with crimes in 2019. Now she's cheerleading oil production. How does that change, Madam Vice President? With all due respect. And that's the memo.